Welcome to our YouTube channel, Zest Study.
Hello everyone. Welcome to our YouTube channel Zestful Study. The first topic is concept of teaching. Now let us understand concept of teaching and what do you mean by teaching aptitude. So all we know that in teacher education programs, and in continuing professional development, a lot of time is devoted to the what of teaching, what areas we cover, what resources do we need and so on. The how of teaching also gets a great deal of space, how to structure a lesson, manage classes, assess for learning and so on. In much modern usage, the words teaching and teacher are wrapped up with schooling and schools. One way of approaching the question what is teaching is to look at what those called teachers do, and then to draw out key qualities or activities that set them apart from others. The problem is that all sorts of things are bundled together in job descriptions or roles that may have little to do with what we can sensibly call teaching. In education, teaching is the concerted sharing of knowledge and experience, which is usually organized within a discipline and, more generally, the provision of stimulus to the psychological and intellectual growth of a person by another person. It is an instruction or delivering a particular skill or subject which is pre-planned behaviors informed by learning principles and child development theory which directs and guides instruction to ensure desired students' outcomes. It is a complex, multifaceted activity, often requiring us as instructors multiple tasks and goals simultaneously and flexibly. Teaching is an activity aimed at bringing about meaningful learning through a method that is morally and pedagogically, educationally acceptable. Teaching involves a teacher, a learner, content and form of knowledge, facts, information, and skill to be communicated, a thoughtful purpose on the part of the learners to learn, and finally a method that respects the learner's cognitive integrity and freedom of choice. Having a consistent value of teaching is always important for a good education system. Therefore, curriculum can always be found in both Eastern and Western education system. However, with different interpretations towards the term curriculum, attitudes and values towards pedagogical approach may vary, which in turn affects how students learn in schools. Here are some definition of teaching. According Oxford Dictionary, impart of knowledge or skill, give instruction or lessons, instill and inspire with. According E. Seiden, 1981, what all the great teachers appear to have in common is love of their subject, an objective satisfaction in arousing this love in their students, and an ability to convince them that what they are being taught is deadly serious. Gage defined teaching as a process of relationship, which should be dealt with cooperation. According to Brubacher, in teaching children plays the central role, and the teacher optimal. According to Smith, 1947, considered teaching as a tripolar process involving I, agent or sources of producing learning which may be human or material. 2, a goal or target to be achieved. 3, the intervening variables consisting of learning or teaching situation, involving human or physical conditions and instructional methods. According to A. M. Iden, 1967, considered teaching as a process of interaction between teacher and the taught as a cooperative enterprises as a two-way traffic. According to some definition, teaching is the process of attending to people's needs, experiences and feelings, and making specific interventions to help them learn particular things. Interventions commonly take the form of questioning, listening, giving information, explaining some phenomenon, demonstrating a skill or process, testing understanding and capacity, and facilitating learning activities, such as note-taking, discussion, assignment writing, simulations and practice. Now let us talk about teaching aptitude. First, we understand what is aptitude. Human beings' efficiency cannot be easily defined like that of a machine, nor can be easily measured. Human beings' working efficiency varies with a number of factors, i.e. aptitude for task involved, adequacy of training for the task, motivation, and condition of work. The word aptitude has been defined in different ways by psychologists, and its meaning varies from person to person. In reference to person's aptitude for the particular subject, we are looking towards the future. However, his aptitude is a present condition, a pattern of traits deemed to be indicative of his potentialities. When appraising aptitudes, we are on alert for symptoms of ability to acquire a genuine absorption in the work as well as a satisfactory level of competence. Indeed, a person who cannot develop a liking for an occupation along with proficiency in it cannot properly be said to have an aptitude for it because he lacks the necessary drive. Thus aptitude is a condition, a quality or a set of qualities in an individual which is indicative of the probable extent to which she will tend to acquire under suitable training. Aptitude points to a quality or characteristic of a person. According to Bingham, the concept of aptitude carries with it certain basic assumptions. An individual's potentialities are not all equally strong. 2. Individuals differ one from another in their potentialities. 3. Differences are relatively stable. Aptitude thus seems to be indicative of a person's power to acquire the specified behavioral pattern of interest, knowledge, and skill. The aptitude measure serves primarily to indicate what an individual will be able to learn, whereas ability measure presents evidence of what the individual is able to do now if he applies himself. However, it should be noted here that from a practical standpoint it would seem almost impossible to obtain an aptitude measure that does not indicate a certain amount of training. Customarily, it is assumed that individuals have been exposed to certain common experiences, and that a person who has a greater degree of aptitude will show a higher level of performance in the standardized test included representing the aptitude. In order to have a clear understanding of the term aptitude, a few definitions given by scholars may be considered. The New Dictionary of Psychology defined aptitude as a capacity in any given skill or field of knowledge, on the basis of which a prediction can be made regarding the amount of improvement which might be affected by further training. In a more general way, Hahn and MacLean points out aptitude as latent potentialities, undeveloped capacities to acquire abilities and skills and to demonstrate achievements. Bingham defines aptitude as a condition that is indicative to a person's relative fitness for his readiness to acquire proficiency, potential ability, and to develop an interest in exercising his potential ability. If a person has an aptitude for teaching, that means that she has the capacity or ability to acquire proficiency in teaching under appropriate conditions, and she will succeed in teaching effectively. Therefore, knowledge of aptitude helps in predicting the future success of an individual under suitable training or experience in a particular area of activity. Now talk about teaching aptitude. Teaching aptitude is the capacity to acquire proficiency with a given amount of training in teacher education. It refers to the capacity of an individual to be skilled in teaching by receiving formal or informal training. Thus, teaching aptitude is helpful in predicting the future success of an individual in teaching field after providing appropriate opportunities and training. Like intelligence tests, various aptitude tests have been devised to measure aptitude of the individuals in various specific fields or activities. Many factors are involved with teaching aptitude, and it depends upon certain personal traits, intellect, and temperament. These often enable the teacher to get over even drastic constraints are imposed on his or her performance. Research studies on teacher aptitude also revealed that many factors have dominant roles in teaching aptitude. Teachers have to find innovative and effective ways to present new concepts for motivating students. A teacher with good aptitude must be aware of the essentials of components of teaching, viz. Lesson planning, motivating students, content learning materials, learning subjects, teaching learning strategies, consolidation, elaborations, group activity, continuous and comprehensive evaluation, discipline, multi-level and multi-grade activities, effective communication and interaction, etc. Historically, teachers had to face innumerable problems inside and outside classrooms such as cognitive, methodological, parental, societal, administrative, managerial, communicative, interactive, and students-related. A creative teacher can solve new problems in a divergent manner. A teacher with creativity can arrange and implement new ideas and technologies in teaching learning process in different ways. Unlike the intelligence test that measures general factor, aptitude test measures multiple or specific factors. In a cursory examination of the test format, aptitude test somewhat looks similar to achievement test and lies for the purpose of measurement. However, the main difference lies in the fact that an achievement test is used to measure an individual's recent level of knowledge or skills or performance, while an aptitude test is used to predict how well an individual may learn or perform for the required task. Let us know about objectives and perspectives of teaching in higher education. There are so many philosophy in education. Here we discuss some of them. First, we discuss about existentialism. Existentialism is a philosophy developed by Jean-Paul Sartre, Kierkegaard, and others. At its core, it is about rejection of the idea that there is a higher power, or God, controlling our destiny. With this knowledge, we are liberated to make decisions for ourselves. Existentialism in education is a teaching and learning philosophy that focuses on the student's freedom and agency to choose their future. Existentialist educators believe there is no God or higher power guiding their students. Thus, they encourage all students to exercise personal agency and create their own meaning for life. In the education perspective, existentialist believes that the majority philosophies of the past have asked out people to think deeply about thoughts and abstractions that had little or no relationship to existence. Scholastic philosophy, during which thinkers debated such questions as how many angels could sit on a head of a pin. The answers to such metaphysical question provided nothing except perhaps some psychological satisfaction at winning a debate through argumentation. Existentialists believe that in their philosophy, the individual is drawn in as a participant, ready to be filled with knowledge supported his ideas. Sartre believes that existence precedes essence. He added that if people have created ideas and practices that are harmful, then they might also create ideas and practices that are beneficial. The existentialist posed that a person is usually in transition, in order that the instant people believe they know themselves is perhaps the instant to start the examination everywhere again. They also believe that honest education emphasizes individuality. It attempts to help each people as seeing ourselves with our fears, frustrations, and hope. Now another philosophy is progressivism. Progressivism mostly became popular as a result of the work of John Dewey, 1897. Dewey's belief was in the experience that students had, and the fact that children will learn better by experiencing the idea firsthand. He believed that students must try and fail in order to learn and develop understandings about the world around them. In connection to the quote by Laborie, 2005, above, progressivism is about failing to succeed, while loving and hating the emotions that follow. Progressivists believe that education should focus on the whole child, rather than on the content or the teacher. This educational philosophy stresses that students should test ideas by active experimentation. Learning is rooted in the questions of learners that arise through experiencing the world. It is active, not passive. The learner is a problem solver and thinker who makes meaning through his or her individual experience in the physical and cultural context. Effective teachers provide experiences so that students can learn by doing. Curriculum content is derived from student interests and questions. The scientific method is used by progressivist educators so that students can study matter and events systematically and firsthand. The emphasis is on process, how one comes to know. The progressive education philosophy was established in America from the mid-1920s through the mid-1950s. John Dewey was its foremost proponent. One of his tenets was that the school should improve the way of life of our citizens through experiencing freedom and democracy in schools. Shared decision-making, planning of teachers with students, student-selected topics are all aspects. Books are tools, rather than authority. Let's talk about constructivism. Constructivism is an important learning theory that educators use to help their students learn. Constructivism is based on the idea that people actively construct or make their own knowledge, and that reality is determined by your experiences as a learner. Basically, learners use their previous knowledge as a foundation and build on it with new things that they learn. Constructivism is crucial to understand as an educator because it influences the way all of your students learn. Teachers and instructors that understand the constructivist learning theory understand that their students bring their own unique experiences to the classroom every day. Their background and previous knowledge impacts how they are able to learn. Educators are able to use constructivist learning theory to help their students understand their previous knowledge. It's important to understand how teachers can apply constructivism inside their classroom to create a unique learning environment for students. In constructivist classrooms, the teacher has a role to create a collaborative environment where students are actively involved in their own learning. Teachers are more facilitators of learning than actual instructors. Teachers must work to understand the pre-existing conceptions and understanding of students, then work to incorporate knowledge within those areas. Teachers will also need to adjust their teaching to match the learner's level of understanding. Constructivist classrooms rely on 4 key areas to be successful. Shared knowledge between teachers and students. Shared authority between teachers and students. Teachers act as a guide or facilitator. Learning groups consist of small numbers of students. Now modernism. Modernism is a philosophical movement that, along with cultural trends and changes, arose from enormous transformations in Western society during the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Among the factors that shaped modernism were the development of modern industrial societies and the rapid growth of cities, followed by the horror of World War I. Modernism was essentially based on a utopian vision of human life and society, and a belief in progress, or moving forward. It assumed that certain ultimate universal principles, or truths, such as those formulated by religion or science, could be used to understand or explain reality. Modernist ideals were far-reaching, pervading art, architecture, literature, religious faith, philosophy, social organization, activities of daily life, and even the sciences. The poet Ezra Pound's 1934 injunction to make it new was the touchstone of the movement's approach towards what it saw as the now obsolete culture of the past. In this spirit, its innovations, like the stream of consciousness novel, atonal, or pantonal, and 12-tone music, divisionist painting and abstract art, all had precursors in the 19th century. Modernism corresponds to Enlightenment concept in English. Modern word based on Enlightenment has been produced from Latin modo, and means that modernus separates past and present. Modern term the new one is used as synonymous of near future which has been furthered away from past. This situation is the one which has been created form a radical change and been applied to human and its natural environment. Modernism is living and being in a qualified, different and new world which does not belong to the past. Modernism concept states as a situation in which a differentiation of progressing, economic and administrative rationalization and social world opposite to traditional order in parallel with modern capitalist, industrial government, and which has been started to be used in West with the Enlightenment in the 8th century. Self-confidence of the individuals increased with modernism, but human beings preferring narcissism of the individualism have been burst out in their internality by the loneliness of urbanization. Postmodernism, which is against aggrandizing the intelligence by modernism, came up by accepting multiplism and diversity instead of single mind. At last we talk about postmodernism. Postmodernism is a late 20th century movement in philosophy and literary theory that generally questions the basic assumptions of Western philosophy in the modern period, roughly the 17th century through the 19th century. Many postmodernists hold one or more of the following views. 1. There is no objective reality. 2. There is no scientific or historical truth, objective truth. 3. Science and technology, and even reason and logic, are not vehicles of human progress, but suspect instruments of established power. 4. Reason and logic are not universally valid. 5. There is no such thing as human nature. Human behavior and psychology are socially determined or constructed. 6. Language does not refer to a reality outside itself. 7. There is no certain knowledge. And 8. No general theory of the natural or social world can be valid or true. All are illegitimate meta-narratives. Although some postmodernists reject the relativist label, many postmodern doctrines constitute or imply some form of relativism. Many postmodernists deny that there are aspects of reality that are objective, or that there are statements about reality that are objectively true or false, implying metaphysical relativism, that it is possible to have knowledge of such statements, implying epistemological skepticism or relativism, and that there are objective, or absolute, moral truths or values, implying ethical subjectivism or relativism. Instead, reality, knowledge, and value are constructed by discourses, shared linguistic practices, and can vary with them. Quality for teaching in higher education. Quality teaching has become an issue of importance as the landscape of higher education has been facing continuous changes, increased international competition, increasing social and geographical diversity of the student body, increasing demands of value for money, introduction of information technologies, etc. But quality teaching lacks a clear definition, because quality can be regarded as an outcome, or a property, or even a process, and because conceptions of teaching quality happen to be stakeholder relative. However, there is much debate in the literature on the methods that should be used to assess the level of teaching and its hypothetical improvements. The choice of teaching and learning method, for teachers and for students, influences the teaching and learning processes. What is tested determines what gets learned, and how it is tested impacts how it is learned. Assessment does not only inform students about their achievement, assessment in itself is a prerequisite for quality learning. Quality teaching initiatives are very diverse both in nature and in function. This paper, being qualitative and conceptual in nature, shall focus on quality teaching and its importance in higher education in an explanatory manner. 1. Good teachers are strong communicators. When it comes to effective teaching, strong communication skills are a must, said Daniel Tangway, Senior Associate Dean of Education Faculty and Programs. Tangway got his start as a high school math teacher, and said that many students came to his class feeling afraid of math, discouraged by their prior experiences, and too overwhelmed to approach the subject positively. By communicating with students at the beginning of the year about how math applies to their favorite hobbies, sports and future careers, Tangway said his students were able to approach the subject in a more enjoyable way that better supported their learning. I'm a firm believer in communication in all forms, he said. As a leader, communication is a tool for overcoming fear. 2. Good teachers listen well. Great communication doesn't stop when the teacher is done talking. Listening well is one of the most important skills needed to be a teacher. Teachers that are skilled in listening and observing often pick up on what isn't being said, such as any anxieties a student may have, and can then help the student build their skills and confidence levels, said student Christine Ducote, who is earning her bachelor's in criminal justice. Student Latricia Maddox, who is studying for a bachelor's in business studies, said that effective listening skills also help a teacher better understand their students and tailor lessons to reach them how they learn best. If an educator can truly hear a student, they can learn how to reach them where they are, she said. This will open the door for them to receive and learn the lesson that is being taught. 3. Good teachers focus on collaboration. Working in education means you're never truly working alone. From paraprofessionals and teaching assistants to other classroom teachers and school leaders, working as a teacher often means working effectively in a group. The key to success in this kind of environment, Tangway said, is the ability to collaborate. You really need to be able to fill various roles in order to collaborate effectively, he said. If you already have someone on your team who is going to be the one to critique all of the suggestions made, then you don't need to join in on that. Instead, maybe you need to be the person who is going to come up with creative ideas. You need to have that flexibility. Collaborating well also means you must be open to learning from other educators, both those with more experience than you or with different backgrounds, said student Caitlin Lippincott. When working with other educators, it's important to possess qualities like communication, understanding, and empathy, she said. The most important quality is professionalism, as this is how many educators will connect and learn more from one another. 4. Good teachers are adaptable. Effective teachers need to be able to work in a constantly evolving environment and adjust their teaching methods based on the age of their students, the resources available, and changing curriculum, practices, and requirements. As a teacher since the 1980s, an SNHU education professor, and on-campus undergraduate program chairman Audrey Rogers said she's seen tremendous changes in the education field throughout her career, particularly with the rise in access to the internet, computers, and other technology. What is teaching going to look like in another 30 years? The only thing certain, Rogers said, is change. Change is a constant, she said. Learning how to adapt and adjust, that's been one of the skills that's been most helpful in my career. It's about keeping my finger on the pulse of who my students are over time and all the trends, standards, and new research, and being able to continually improve. Adaptability is also one of the key skills needed to be a teacher, who may be educating students of varying grade levels or different learning styles, Tangwe said. You have to be able to adapt based upon your audience, he said. 5. Good teachers are engaging. Being able to engage students with humor, creative lessons, and a strong classroom presence is an important part of what makes someone a good teacher, Tangwe said. If you were to envision the teacher that you would want in your life, even now, you're going to want someone who is very engaging in front of the classroom, he said. A good teacher will perform for their students to keep them going. It's not about sitting back and just lecturing, it's about engaging in the work. What an engaging teacher looks like will vary depending on grade level and subject matter, Tangwe said. In kindergarten, an engaging teacher might be one who gets down on the floor to do activities with their students on their level. In high school, an engaging teacher may be one who thinks outside the box, adds humor to their lessons, and finds creative ways to bring learning into the real world. 6. Good teachers show empathy. Another key to engaging students and improving their learning is to treat each student as an individual, by being empathetic and understanding to what may be going on in their lives, Tangwe said. We need to take a moment to think back and think about what could be going on in this student's life, he said. It's so important to be observant, attentive, empathetic, and always have a positive attitude. Rhonda Garrison, a student in SNHU's psychology program, said empathy and understanding from a teacher can not only help the teacher make a connection with a student, it can directly impact a student's learning in the classroom. Something that may be easy for one student may not be so easy for someone else, she said. Everyone learns differently, whether it be faster or slower than normal, learns better by writing, reading, or hands-on. Teachers need to always keep this in mind and always pay close attention to ensure each student is on the track they need to be. 7. Good teachers have patience. No matter what grade level you're teaching, your patience will be tested while working as an educator. Whether you're managing classroom behavior, working with colleagues with different views, or communicating student issues or progress with parents, patience is one of the most important skills to practice as a teacher. More often than not, you actually have to have more patience with the parents than you do with the students, Tangwe said. Parents are coming in with their perceptions of what happened to them when they were students or previous experiences that may have been detrimental to their child. You have to be patient and understanding of them. 8. Good teachers value real-world learning. Teachers who bring their students' learning into the real world are often some of the most engaging. But it's important for teachers to bring their own learning into the real world too. One of the best preparations for effective teaching is to ensure that education students get plenty of classroom experience early on in their degree programs, Rogers said. For students in SNHU's bachelor's level on-campus program, this preparation includes embedded coursework that begins in a student's freshman year. They spend time at a local school once a week to collaborate with teacher partners and apply their learning to the classroom. A year-long student teaching experience is also a powerful way to ensure soon-to-be teachers have the time to hone their teaching skills, Rogers said. Our students have that benefit of seeing the practical application of what they're learning in the moment they're learning it, she said. 9. Good teachers share best practices. A willingness to share knowledge and experiences with others is one of the most important qualities of a good teacher, Rogers said. Education is a very hands-on field and often requires experimentation within the classroom to discover which methods of communicating with students work best. Part of being an effective teacher is sharing your findings and best practices with others in the field, Rogers said. I always challenge my students to think, what is your contribution, she said. Are you brave enough to post on Twitter about your ideas on technology integration in the classroom? Your willingness to share your practice, to keep an open door, to be transparent, and to be observed are an important part of your teaching. 10. Good teachers are lifelong learners. One of the key skills needed to be a good teacher is a dedication to continued education and a love of learning. Whether you're learning more about your subject area, learning new methods of communication, or even exploring how to bring more technology into your classroom, continuing to expand your own knowledge is key to expanding that of your students. Those dedicated to their subjects with a passion for learning make the best teachers, said student Jennifer Gardner, who is studying mathematics. They also need to have a desire to pass on that knowledge. Ducote said it's important for teachers to never feel as though they've learned it all, and to remain open to new experiences. No matter your education level, you can learn something from everyone you encounter, including fellow educators as well as students, she said. Being willing to continually add tools to your toolbox, even unconventional ones at times, will keep things new and exciting, as well as giving you excellent skills.
Thanks for watching the video.